Ready for another edition of Warpaint TV? Brought to you by Cotman Transmission, Olathe, Kansas, 913-768-1555.
Are you ready for some real football?
Kansas City Chiefs fans, it's late August and football is in the air and a young man's fancy turns to Warpaint TV. Once again, I'm Shane Williams here. To my left is Chiefs insider Nick Athan. What's going on, buddy?
Much, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great. Hey,
You're all clean shaven, hair's short.
I told you if once the lockout is finished, the beard's gone, but I had good times with the beard.
There for a while.
Shaggy Shane, that's who I am. But let's get right to it. Tomorrow's game is the game that football fans worldwide want to see. They want to see the third preseason game, the first game and the second game. It's kind of like, when are we going to see some guys' emotions? When are we going to see some players play? At least with the Chiefs, that's it, because they're not showing much. But in the last third preseason games that are tied daily, the Kansas City Chiefs did do something. Granted, 2 years ago, Matt Castle was hurt the second play of the game. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about tomorrow. The Governor's Cup, St. Louis Rams and Kansas City Chiefs. What do you expect to see tomorrow?
Well, I think you're going to see probably going to see the starters play into the third quarter. At least if I was the head coach, that's what I would do. The offense has got to get some consistency. They've got to see if they can find someone other than Jonathan Baldwin. He's not going to obviously play. They've got a couple of journeyman wide receivers there. I mean, he's got to get into some sort of rhythm of what they're going to do offensively. They looked offensively a little bit better, obviously, against the Ravens than they certainly did against the Bucs, but the game plans were different. I expect this game plan to be a little different, but offensively, They've got to get some first downs. They've got to score a touchdown or two at least. I'd like to see them establish the run game a little bit more. And defensively, I want to see more Justin Houston. I want to see Tom Bahali on the field at the same time. I would love to see what that package looks like in a real game, because I think those guys are going to be the difference. If the Chiefs are going to get sacks this year, those two guys are going to have to do it. But obviously the biggest question, secondary we know is fine, but that defensive line, can Tyson Jackson play like he did last week is a big question. If he can, the Chiefs are going to be a better football team. If he can't, I really like Allen Bailey, big, strong, physical kid, University of Miami. We had him rated in the offseason as the number 16th overall pick, and he slid down a couple rounds. So this is a guy that I think the Chiefs can be excited about. I want to see what he can do too. So a lot of things. Bottom line is, though, they have to play better, because what you're going to see in the first half, first 3 quarters, is what you're going to see opening day against the Bills.
Brandon Seiler, Kansas City Chiefs linebacker they just picked up from the San Diego Chargers this offseason, we just found out yesterday, was put on IR with an Achilles. He was going to challenge Javon Belcher for the opposite middle linebacker position opposite of Derek Johnson. Do you feel that they'll bring somebody in to push Javon Belcher, or do you think hands down this pretty much gives him the job?
I think they have to find another inside linebacker option. I mean, they've got DeMario Williams outside. They got Cameron Sheffield on the outside. And DeMario can play inside linebacker if need be. He did a little bit of that down in Atlanta when he was with the Falcons. But I just don't think he's the kind of player that can make plays behind the line of scrimmage. I don't think he can go into open spaces and make a one-on-one tackle. Now, Belcher has the chops to do that. But, last year he was more of a gang tackler than he was a playmaker. Yeah, he had a big play in the playoffs and got a sack and made some nice plays. But consistently speaking, you need your inside linebackers to do 3 things. 1, they have to be able to shoot the gaps and rush the quarterback. 2, they have to be able to not support the run but make the plays, because the defensive line job is to clog the offensive lineman. The linebacker's job are to make the plays. And he's got to be able to cover in open spaces. And I don't think he can do all 3 of those things. I think he can do a couple of them well, but he can't do like Derek Johnson does. And that's a problem. And the Chiefs are kind of saddled. What do? I think they'll bring another inside linebacker in. That's why they wanted Nick Harris as bad as they did, but they just weren't going to pay him the money that the Buffalo Bills did. And I wouldn't blame him. I wouldn't pay him either. So they're going to have to get some. I talked to Bob Fesco at 610 Sports about this, and he said, Seiler's not that big of a loss. I think he would have started inside linebacker, at least in short yardage situations. I would rather have him on the field than Javon Belcher.
Talk about Gerald Poe. This kid, you and Josh Scott from Warpaint Illustrated had a chance to watch him closely in training camp, and he looked decent last Friday night when the Chiefs played the Baltimore Ravens. Does this kid have a chance to come in and start right away?
No, it's not going to happen. Kelly Gregg's going to be the starter, and that's good for Gerald Poe. He doesn't have the pressure. He doesn't have the expectations. He has some time to learn, how to play in the National Football League. Listen, again, another guy. I had him I'm screaming in the 3rd round, take this kid, take this kid, take this kid, because Yeah, he had some issues. He ended up being a learning disability. Well, those things you can overcome, and he has. But two things you have to remember. You just look at the Tampa Bay game. Late in the third quarter, I think it was, he goes 30 yards down the field, chases the quarterback from preventing him from getting in the end zone. I think Johnson was the quarterback for the Bucs. And then you saw what he could do behind the line of scrimmage against the Ravens. The way he moves so well down the line of scrimmage that I'm really impressed with him. I mean, he'll start next year probably, no question. If the Chiefs ever want to do any kind of 4-3 schemes, which they may do in certain situations, they can put him in the middle and Kelly Gregg in the middle, and Tom Bahali on the outside, and Tyson. I mean, they could do a lot of really cool things. So it gives them some options. He's going to be a really good player for this team. He'll be the nose tackle of the future. But right now he's getting tutored, schooled, and mentored by Kelly Gregg.
And news today is the Kansas City Chiefs have signed former New York Jet and Tampa Bay Buccaneer tight end Anthony Beck. All right, we'll be right back after a brief message from our good friends at Cotman Transmission.
My experience at Cotman was phenomenal.
They worked on my car while I waited. I was in and out in less maybe like 30 minutes.
When you're dealing with your car, you drive it every day. You need someone that you can trust to work on it.
It's a good experience.
I'm a Cotman customer for life.
I trust Cotman.
He's my Cotman man, and he keeps me rolling along.
All right, Nick, Jonathan Baldwin's going to be out for a period of time with his injured thumb. How soon do you think it'll be before he's back on the field? And who do you see replacing him until he's back on the field?
Well, I think it's possible he could be ready for opening day. I mean, the kid's strong, physical. He had a leg injury, worked really hard to get back on the field in only a matter of a few days. So that tells me the kid works hard, he's physical. He knows what's at stake here. He could probably endure quite a lot of pain. If he was a member of the Pittsburgh Panther offense, it was quite a lot of pain he had to deal with last year because it wasn't a very good offense. But that aside, worst case scenario, he'd probably be ready for Detroit, or maybe even worst case scenario against San Diego, which might be a good game for him to debut because it won't give the Chargers much time to prepare for him. It gives the Chiefs a couple of weeks to get him in practice, get some reps up. The only problem I see is if the Chiefs are going to hold a grudge over this incident with Thomas Jones. If they do that, they'd be making a big mistake. And I really don't want to go down this path because we beat it to death on the podcast. We beat it to death on national sports talk radios and through a couple of articles, including my banter with Nick Wright on 610 Sports. And the bottom line is this. The Chiefs absolutely have to have this guy on the field this year. End of statement. He has got to play. If he plays, this offense is potentially twice as good as it was a year ago. That's how important he is, in my opinion. Now, that may not be the opinion shared by Todd Haley, but Scott Pioli didn't really go out on a limb on this kid because he had one single incident off the field when he made a comment about in the situation between coaching staffs. He made one remark that, hey, he didn't like the way the offense was getting him the ball. That's it. That's the only bad thing he did. So I don't care who started the fight. I don't care who ended the fight. The result is he's got a broken finger. The Chiefs can't hold him accountable. They got to hold Thomas Jones just as accountable. They have to get this guy on the field. This entire season, I think, offensively rests on Jonathan Baldwin.
Until then, is it Kerry Colbert? Is it Jeremy Urban? Is it Breston? Do they move Breston out wide, move somebody in the slot? What do you think? Who do you see taking a spot until he comes? Or because he has to learn the offense. We've seen Sylvester Morris show some potential as #1 draft pick wide receiver in 2000. The first 3 or 4 games he got hurt. He never was the same. My point is, who do you see coming in for Baldwin?
That's a good question. I do not think Steve Breston can play on the outside. I don't. He's a slot receiver. That's what he excels at. That's where he needs to play. You don't want to start moving guys like that who study, practice, and have been a slot receiver virtually their whole career. I don't know the Kerry Colbert fascination. I mean, everybody seems to be he's the flavor of the month. And nothing against Kerry, but, we really haven't seen what he can do. And they really don't have any, we've got Terrence Copper, Aaron Tucker. I mean, those are possibilities. Both showed signs last year that they can catch the ball and make some plays. But, again, if Dwayne Bowe's double-teamed and Tony Mowaki has a linebacker and a safety over him, who are they going to throw to on the other side? That's what Breston's responsibility is in that offense. But, that's why that impact of that second outside receiver is so critical, and that's why Baldwin and Bowe make a good combination. But I don't really know. I can't answer that question. We've got 2 preseason games to find out, and we probably won't know. If Baldwin doesn't play, we probably won't know until after the opening day game against Buffalo. If they can double team and create mismatches and just do single coverage on the outside and not have a threat, that hampers the offense. That's why the Chiefs spent all this time being patient with Dwayne Bowe, doghouse or no doghouse. That's why they drafted Tony Milwaukee. They gave up a draft pick. They moved up. They signed Baldwin when the only person that was touting him was John Gruden, and said, hey, this would be a perfect fit for the Chiefs. You get him. You get the one free agent everybody knew was coming to Kansas City, and Steve Breston. You sign Ron McClain. You've got Jamal Charles. You got Matt Castle. Yeah, there's a reason that they made these decisions. So for them to be a solid offense off the bat, it's going to take some time to develop, and someone is going to have to step up. And at this point, Shane, I have no idea who that is.
Remains to be seen. Hopefully we'll get some sort of inkling tomorrow at the Chiefs-Rams game. And another thing for the Chiefs-Rams game, a lot of people, not only in this area, a lot of people worldwide knows what happened Sunday, May 22nd, 2011 in Joplin, Missouri, with the devastating tornado that did much destruction. Tomorrow's game, there's going to be a lot of donations, a lot of help. You can help the people in Joplin. Chiefs fans can make donations as they enter the gate at Arrowhead. Throughout the game, Chiefs will recognize first responders and volunteers, including more than 100 American volunteers, as well as harvesters and Heart to Heart. So if you can, Chiefs fans and Rams fans attending tomorrow's game, reach in your pocket and give some of the donations to Joplin, Missouri. Once again, I'm Shane Williams with Warpaint TV, along with Chiefs insider Nick Athan, the beautiful and talented Justin Olson doing the camera work. Until next time, keep it right here at warpaintillustrated.com.
Don't miss another edition of Warpaint Illustrated the magazine. To get your subscription today, call 888-979-0979. That's 888-979-0979, or check out warpaintillustrated.com.